You might have noticed that if you buy herbs like this from a supermarket, they tend to run out of steam quite quickly, and that's for two reasons. This pot is really small, so the plant is going to run out of energy quite quickly in that. And the other reason why these basil ones will run out of energy quickly is there's lots of them. They're growing very close together. Sowing things close is a good way to get a good yield quickly. So that's why they've sown them really close, because you get a lot of basil leaves very quickly, and sometimes that can be a very good strategy. The downside of it is that the plants, because they're growing close, they compete with each other and they use up the nutrients quite quickly and run out of steam. So if we want this basil plant to grow for a longer period of time and for us to be able to pick it for a longer period of time, what we can do is move it into a bigger pot. The only thing about basil, if you do want to do this now, is you will need to, well, in most parts of the UK anyway, you will need to keep the plant inside because it's too cold for basil outside at the moment. The first thing I've done is filled a pot with some multi-purpose compost or general purpose potting mix, and as you can see, it's quite a lot bigger pot than this one. You could go a bit smaller than this one if you wanted to, but you want to make sure you're moving them up a good size. And then I'm going to give it a good water. Plants do find being moved from one pot to another a stressful time. Some are more reluctant about being moved than others, but a good analogy is like moving house. For us, moving house is stressful, and so it is for plants. So we want to do everything we can to minimize the stress, and giving the pot a good water is an important one because it helps the plants. I always think of it a bit like giving them a cup of tea, helps the plants sort of settle in. To remove the plants from a pot, what you can normally do is put your hand on one side, and then if it doesn't come out very easily like that, squeeze it, the pot, and normally the whole plant will come out. And as you can see already here, we've got like loads of roots going all around. What I'm going to do now is, in order to give these plants more space, I'm going to separate them into clumps. Now you don't have to separate them into separate plants. Even if you just have like 3 or 4 together like that, they'll still actually get a lot more space to grow in. You can also get coriander like this from a supermarket, but coriander is one which is less happy about being moved usually. So once I've split my plant up, I can then make holes in my potting mix and just put the plants in. And you want to firm the compost around them. You want them sort of securely in, and quite often it's possible to bury the plants a little bit deeper than they are, and particularly things like tomatoes, chilies, but even these basil plants will be fine going a little bit deeper in the soil. It helps to anchor them. So there we are. There are my basil plants. I can plant another pot of basil with back root there. Now I've moved my basil, I'm going to give it another water, which is like giving it the cup of tea I mentioned earlier on. Help it settle into its new home. That's watered and all ready to go. I'm now going to move this into a warm place inside, where hopefully it will grow. I have had mixed success with basil doing it like this. Sometimes I find it grows really well, and other times it does a bit better than it would do in this pot, but not like massively better. But it's definitely worth a go, because if they really take off and they really go, you can get loads of basil from one pot like this. I think the reason why it doesn't always work brilliantly, well, it depends. There's lots of variables, but one of the things is that sometimes the plants, when you get them, are maybe not in quite good condition as other times. Anyway, it's quite a fun project. quick update on the basil we planted from the supermarket plant a few weeks ago, and I'm very pleased with it. Luckily it's done quite well, and as you can see, I'm getting a lot more basil from this than I was from that small supermarket plant. One thing to do now that will help it sort of grow a bit more bushy is to pinch out the tips. You probably can see that it's growing, some of the stems are now growing quite tall, whereas if I pinch them out like this, eat those tonight, and then from the base here these two shoots should grow, and hopefully I'll get a few more weeks of basil out of this. It's still April here in the UK, so it's very much something I've got to keep inside on the windowsill. Definitely too cold outside for it, but yeah, hopefully it will continue to produce some tasty basil leaves for a few weeks to come.